More than a dozen people have died as below freezing temperatures tear through the Midwest. In Chicago, public schools are closed, mail delivery has been suspended, and more than 4,000 flights in and out of the city have been canceled since Tuesday. CBS News correspondent Adriana Diaz is there.
Layer of frost has gripped the city of Chicago, and it's not letting go. The Chicago River looks more like the Chicago ice rink. That's where the fire department's icebreaker is in overdrive, shattering the ice to deter people from walking on it and so emergency boats can pass, says Lieutenant Jay Tetriff.
How hard does the temperature make this work?
It was hard today to just get the mast down to start and then to get the motors working.
Yeah, I can feel the boat rumbling just to get through the ice.
You don't realize it's doing it right now, but it's riding on top of the ice and breaking it.
It was negative 10 degrees on board, a warm-up from this morning's record-breaking negative 21 in Chicago. In St. Paul, Minnesota, the low hit negative 24. That's where our DeMarco Morgan found dozens huddled in a train station turned temporary warming center this morning, including Stephen Hicks, who's homeless and has frostbite.
Train station will be closed. What's next for you? Where do you go from here?
Right now, all of these shelters are full. People have nowhere else to go. Whoever is outside is probably going to be outside.
Outside in the deadly deep freeze that's already claimed more than a dozen lives since Sunday, including an 18-year-old University of Iowa student found dead on campus. Most of the Midwest will warm slightly as the Arctic air moves east toward New York City, where wind chills plunged below zero. In upstate New York, this ice is actually the upper level of the Niagara Falls, where rushing water is resisting the freeze for now.
Back here in Chicago, first responders have gotten calls almost every day about people in duress on the ice. Tanya, we are supposed to enter positive temperature territory here on Friday, but not before more snow.
Oh, boy. Adriana Diaz, get inside and get warm. Thank you. And for more on this, CBS News contributing meteorologist Jeff Berardelli joins me on set. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us. So tell us about conditions across the country on Thursday.
All right, so today it was a very cold day. A lot of places did not get above zero. The cold air spread into the Northeast as well, and we saw a lot of record lows this morning. Places like Rockford, Illinois, got down to 30 below. That was an all-time record low temperature. Moline, Illinois, also got down to about between negative 27 and 29 degrees. Really frigid there. That was an all-time record. You can see them right there, negative 29 there. Chicago didn't quite break an all-time record. The all-time record was negative 27. But you know what? I think the people in Chicago were just fine with negative 21.
Yeah,
by the way,
enough.
48 hours in a row that it has been below zero in Chicago, and about 72 hours in a row it's been below zero in Duluth, Minnesota.
So, Jeff, why was the Midwest hit so hard? What was the perfect storm that led to that area getting the bulk of the cold?
So, the polar vortex. First of all, I should say the polar vortex, the term has been around for generations. I learned about it when I went to Cornell, 25 years ago. I'm kind of dating myself here. But so meteorologists have talked about it for years, but we didn't really bring it into the public sphere until a few years ago. And now everybody, it's a catchphrase, talks about the polar vortex. But it happens every year. Sometimes the polar vortex will split into two pieces. Typically, it's located in the Arctic near the North Pole. Sometimes it will progress further south. It happens almost every year we get a piece of it. This was a really big and intense piece of the polar vortex, which kind of split off from the north and headed south into Chicago, to Detroit, Cleveland, and New York.
So it happens every year. Why was this one so intense, and especially in the era of global warming?
So let's talk about that. First of all, I think the reason why it was so intense is it has not been cold at all in the United States, especially the eastern half of the United States so far this winter. So the cold air was just kind of sitting, waiting, and it all just kind of happened at once. That's number one. Number two, this theory about how Arctic amplification, milder conditions in the Arctic, are kind of causing this split in the polar vortex to happen more often and causing the jet stream to weaken a little bit because it gets milder, there's less of a contrast, you get a weaker jet stream, and therefore it gets a little bit more, let's say, undulated.
So
you get more dips.
So does that mean,
happen.
so ironically, does that mean that as the planet continues to warm, we could see some more extreme cold during the winter?
It is possible. So yes, the Arctic amplification, global warming, could facilitate this to happen more often, this splitting of the polar vortex. But overall, the number of extreme cold air outbreaks should go down, the intensity should go down, and extreme heat waves should go up. So it'll be a progression. But remember, it's still winter. It's still cold in Canada and the Arctic. We're still going to get very cold air in the eastern half of the United States.
So what can we expect in the coming days? Is the worst over? Is there more of this cold to come?
Pretty much the worst is over.
Okay.
It's going to still be cold overnight tonight, though. In places like the Northeast, some places will get down below zero. Islip, maybe the only place to actually get a record tonight. Their record is about 6 degrees. We're forecasting that tonight. But there are the forecast temperatures tomorrow morning. Chicago, 7. That's nice, right? Tomorrow afternoon, 9, and eventually translating to 21 in New York City. So 23 Pittsburgh. I mean, that's like a picnic, right?
These numbers still look low, but they're a lot higher than what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
So what's to account for this rapid rise, relative rise?
Right. So what's going to happen is we're going to see the polar vortex move back to where it should be, back to the northern part of Canada. That's going to evacuate. And we're going to see all this mild air that's going to be located down to the south, kind of influx further towards the north. That'll happen into the Ohio Valley as we head into, especially tomorrow and over the weekend. In fact, we have a couple graphics to show you over the weekend and that transition that's going to be happening. And what's amazing is the difference in temperature on Sunday from this morning. We're going to see a difference in temperature of over 70 degrees in places like Chicago. 70 degrees warmer than it was this morning on Sunday afternoon in Chicago, where they could hit close to 50 degrees.
That's almost unbelievable. So once this polar vortex moves on, chances are we won't see another one this winter, or can we see 2 in a winter?
We can't see that. We can't say that for sure.
Okay,
no. What we can say is it's going to be warmer for the next at least week and a half in the eastern part of the United States.
All right.
The West Coast, by the way, is going to be slammed by a huge storm on Saturday. 2 to 3 inches of rain along the coast. Wind gusts probably up to 80 miles an hour and 3 to 6 feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada.
Nasty, nasty weather. Jeff Berardelli, thank you so much for updating us on the polar vortex.